recording?
We are now.
Well, welcome to Citizen Watch, the special Wednesday edition. Evidently, one of our other hosts was busy inflating basketballs and couldn't come in, but we were lucky enough to grab this time slot, and we
it looks
appreciate
like an
it.
inflated basketball.
Well, anyway, this is the, like I said, a special Wednesday, February 26th edition of Citizen Watch on KYOS AM 1480 in beautiful downtown Merced. We have, of course, in studio, Steve Colvard, the best engineer and co-host in AM radio in the Valley there. And, of course, Robert, the Velvet Sledgehammer Tomasetti. I'm sure he's there with his state-of-the-art KYOS headphones on.
Nope.
And no?
Steve bought new headphones.
He bought new head. Well, hey, maybe management's throwing a little money.
He has a
down
long circular object in his mouth.
What?
I'm eating a banana.
Oh, he's eating a banana? Well, Steve's always, he's got to stay healthy there and keep the potassium up. And we also have a very, very special guest in studio today.
He's
I told
special.
people about him yesterday. Mayor Stan Thurston. Now, for folks that don't know, this is Mayor Thurston's second term. He was just elected to a 3-year term because we amended the city charter in the last election. So instead of serving 2 years, he gets an extra year in the saddle there. And Mayor Thurston came on board, I believe, in 2008, or was it 10?
2011.
2011 in the election, took over from a very dysfunctional mayor and city council that was not rowing the boat in the same direction. They weren't listening to the public, and Mayor
Who was our
Thurston
mayor?
came in and made some changes, and I think that we're a better council for it. And it's really interesting. In this last election, we were told that Mayor Thurston didn't have a snowball's chance to get elected, and why is he even running? But I think that the voters spoke, and we do have Mayor Thurston in studio, and he was elected handily. I can't tell you how many people told us, Stan, that you wouldn't be sitting there today, but you are, and I'm glad you are, and I think the city's better for it. So welcome to the studio.
Thank you for the nice words, and good morning, Merced, or I guess it'll be good evening by the time this is broadcast.
Oh, and people can hear this over and over if they want to go to YouTube. We're now on YouTube. We have our own YouTube channel, and we are over 1,000 hits, folks, and I really want to appreciate, I want to thank our listeners and appreciate you guys for passing along the KYOS space 1480 AM website address there on YouTube so people can listen to the shows if they miss it, or if they want to hear Stan's words or any of our shows over again, they can. But this is going to be a fast-paced hour, folks. We have a lot of things. We don't get the mayor in there that often. I know that we have one of the council members is, I guess, the official spokesman for the council, comes in every week. And, one of the questions, Stan, is how come we don't have other people come in and talk about city issues? Is Councilman Pedroso the official spokesman?
No, the council never addressed that issue. I guess he's here for I don't know what reason.
Okay, well, I'd like to maybe mix it up sometime. Maybe we can talk to Steve and management about that. But let's get into the issues. One of the things we talked about was SB 7, Senate Bill 7. And we're a charter city as opposed to a general law city. And you guys just had a vote to take this issue to court over the states imposing that we use prevailing wage in all of our contracting with entities, things that we buy, people we contract with. And I just want to know, by giving up this sovereignty, what else are we potentially giving up?
Well, there's 122 charter cities in California that provides home rule, essentially. And the tax money you're talking about that's contracted is local tax money. An example is Measure C money, which is a half-cent sales tax, which is all Merced local money. And if we wanted to use it to build something, using that money, we put it out to bid, and the lowest qualified bidder gets the project.
That's lowest qualified bidder. That's the person that can provide the goods and services for what we want, not necessarily based on an artificial wage. Is that correct?
That's correct. Now, if there's federal or state money involved, then they impose the prevailing wage because it's not our local money. SB 7 would require prevailing wage to be used in all contracts, I think above $1,000 or $5,000, a pretty low threshold. This has already been to the Supreme Court in California once. Vista, California, back in 2007, voted to become a charter city and then wanted to use their local measure money to build 2 fire stations. And they were not going to pay prevailing wage because they were now a charter city. The AFL-CIO sued them, and it ended up in the Supreme Court, and I think it was a 5-2 vote that said that in doing so it violated the Constitution of California, and sided with the city. So last year they concocted SB 7, which doesn't say we have to use prevailing wage, but if we don't, we receive no other state money for anything.
So they kind of hold you hostage. And just to let people know, the AFL-CIO, is that another name for the union?
It's one of the unions, and this whole SB 7 was a total union-backed enterprise, if you will.
So we have a united front going on this lawsuit, don't we?
In an unprecedented action, the California League of Cities agreed to pay half the cost of litigation. We are one of 15 other cities that have signed on as plaintiffs and associate plaintiffs to advance this litigation forward, to again litigate this issue of home rule versus the state telling us what to do. If the state gets away with this, then we might as well not even have charter cities, because one by one they will go down the line and assert their authority over every other home rule measure that we now enjoy.
And what are some of those other home rule issues? Is land use one of them?
That's the big one. A general law city has to scrupulously follow their general plan.
Scrupulous.
A charter, in fact, they get sued all the time if they vary just a little bit. A charter city has a lot of flexibility. Our general plan is more of a guide, and if we vary from it, we don't violate the law, because that's one of the flexibilities that a charter city has. In other words, if we just did some rezoning, and if we were a general law city, we'd have to revise the general plan before we could rezone, which often kicks off an environmental review, which then costs a lot of money. So you really kind of stagnated in whatever you put together as a general plan.
So it takes away our flexibility on what we want to do as a city.
Correct.
Why would some of the city council, I understand there were 3 city council members, Lohr, Pedroso, and Blake, that didn't want to go along with the expenditure on these legal fees. Any idea why?
Because they're all supported by unions.
Well,
I heard it from the mayor.
For the good of the city?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, they put special interests over the best interests of the citizens of Merced.
Well, but again, I think it gets back to what we were kind of talking about yesterday about the differences in philosophies of what government's role is. And I think that Josh's perspective and probably Lohr's and Kevin Blake's is that it's the government's job to distribute income. Would that be a fair thing to say? That the government is a job creator, it's a job engine, it's an economic engine, if you will.
What are they thinking of Roosevelt and the New Deal? Is that their whole mentality?
They never mentioned that. There are some cities, some charter cities, that have initiated on their own some prevailing wage provisions in their cities. And I said, and others said, if the city of Merced wants to enact prevailing wage, we can do that. There's nothing preventing us from doing it, but you better ask the citizens of Merced if they want to pay more to fix roads and build things. Merely because of that, the consequence of that is it would eliminate most of local labor, because some of the small companies that do contracts for the city don't have the resources to essentially create 2 sets of books. One for government work and one for private work. It's just too expensive for them, and so they just fall out of the program. So it would cost a lot of local labor in addition to costing more.
This is what Robert was talking about yesterday, about buying local. Don't we have this emphasis on buying local, Mayor?
Well, we're trying.
And this would preclude some of these people trying to come up and build their businesses from bidding on public works, right?
Correct.
Well,
And why would that be a good thing?
We're successful in fighting this with the state, and it'll be interesting to see the progress on this. But I think people need to realize that when we start down this slippery slope of giving up our sovereignty, who knows what the next shoe to fall is.
Well, we pretty much know it's going to be land use.
Well, when we talk about land use, you had mentioned some of the specific projects we have around town, and one of them is the new police headquarters that's slated to go over there on Yosemite and G Street across from Rayleigh's. Is that still going to happen?
I hope not. I think that's a horrible place to put police headquarters for a couple of reasons. Number one, there's several developers that are already after that piece of property to put restaurant or other retail on that site. It's a perfect site for those kind of things. The philosophy that because Merced's growing north, we should start moving all the city services north, I think that's a horrible policy. Then we should move City Hall, the Youth Center, Senior Center, the fire headquarters. Let's all move them north.
Don't give them any ideas.
North.
Don't give them any ideas, Mayor.
That's to me, that's a terrible policy, and I don't agree with that. And I think the city should sell that property or trade it or do something to allow property and sales tax to start flowing into the city coffers.
You know what's funny?
Go ahead, Robert.
What's funny is this is exactly what image and perception rules out on this one, because the people on the south side of Merced constantly rail that we don't get services, we don't get services, we don't get this, we don't get that. Oh, everybody lives up north, so north gets it. So now you want to move what? You move the hospital out of, central Merced, moved it north, and then now you're going to move what? You're going to move the police department, and like Stan says, watch out. There may be a push to put other things up north also, and there's your perception situation. The people up north, the supervisors, everybody lives up that way. Excuse me, not the supervisors, but the council, everybody lives that way, so it's self-serving. Meanwhile, South Merced gets what? Nada.
Well, the other issue is we're trying our best to vitalize and keep vitalized downtown. So why wouldn't we want the police headquarters downtown? And we do what we say and tell other people to do ourselves. That being the city.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of people interested in moving downtown north. In that vein.
Well, here's the thing, though. I can just see it coming. The police department's going to move across Rayleigh's. Every time they have to go to the court system, they're going to want, mileage reimbursement. I guarantee you. Okay? Because no, you laugh, but what happened with Larry Morse's people? You moved them 3 blocks downtown, then they wanted some kind of situation to get transportation because walking the extra 2 blocks is too far. I'm serious.
Shuttle going every day. So, Mayor, you propose what? Selling that property, and where should we build a new police headquarters, or should we augment the one we have?
On McKee.
Well,
on Casey's property.
Build it downtown.
So build it downtown and keep the police headquarters downtown and keep the central core in the center of Merced.
Yeah, one of the things they don't have are training facilities.
Right.
And maybe some more expansive office. I don't see why we can't upgrade their existing building and then build something that satisfies the things they don't have now. Why does it have to be in one great big thing? Why can't they be a mile apart?
Well, I agree. We have that old haunted house, the old library there on M Street. I don't know what's going to happen with that property, but there's obviously some property very close to the existing police headquarters. One thing that's been controversial, Mayor, is the Parsons Avenue widening. The folks that live along Parsons Avenue don't want to see it happen, but Parsons has been designated a major arterial. And as far as with that designation, the money flows to it. What do you think should happen with that project?
I think it should be halted permanently, immediately.
In other words, we shouldn't build the bridge across Yosemite, Bear Creek there?
No, this goes back to the 1950s. And then in the 60s. Parsons was on the edge of town. It was going to be kind of a loop.
Before McKee?
Yes. And there was going to be an interchange at Parsons in 99.
Well, there's not going to be an interchange now, is there?
No. Once Caltrans decided to do Mission, Parsons interchange won't exist. So it'll only go as far as Yosemite Parkway. But between Bear Creek and Stretch, is about 50 or 60 homes. Now, if you have an arterial, you're not allowed to have property that you back onto an arterial like M Street.
In other words, driveways dumping out onto the roadway.
Yeah, and if you widen the roadway to 4 lanes, then the sidewalks are going to be 3 feet from the people's front door. There won't be any driveways.
The people supporting this, what is their logic behind that? What is it supposed to do? Alleviate traffic in the city?
I'm not sure. Most of the justification is it's been a goal of the city for years. We need to keep going. That's all I hear. There's no screaming demand. In fact,
what purpose is it going to serve?
They wanted to.
It's another north-south avenue.
over the creek. What they
don't
wanted.
Don't we have the campus parkway as kind of the loop around the city? Wouldn't that be more spending our money on that?
Yes, in fact, I think we ought to spend that. Why can't we use McKee? We already have a bridge over Bear Creek. Just use some money to do an underpass on the railroad, make a couple of right and then left turns, and hook on to Parsons at Yosemite Parkway. We don't even need to widen it right now. It's already a wide 2-lane road.
Yeah. Case, we got to take our first break here, buddy.
Boy, the time goes quick. We'll be right back, folks.
Go.
Hey, folks, welcome to the second segment of Citizen Watch, this special Wednesday night edition, February 26th, on KYOS, 1480 AM. That's the address you use if you want to see us on YouTube. Let me give a quick shout-out. Our tip line is area code 209-406-8728. If you have any show suggestions, you have any tips you want to pass along about what's going on in the once fine city of Merced, please let us know. In studio, we have Steve Colvard, Robert the Velvet Sledgehammer Tomasetti. I'm Casey Steed, and our special guest today is Mayor Stan Thurston on his second term, his second 3-year term. And we're talking about issues in the city. We just talked about Parsons Avenue. One of the things, Mayor, that's in the news is we're going to get rid of the old Pepsi building. Evidently, that's a city-owned building. That's good news, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Who's going to buy it?
A company that's going to process pistachios.
Where are they from?
Pistachios or almonds?
Pistachios.
Where are they from?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Come on, Casey. You're so...
Chicago.
No, he's so quick to, we lost it to Turlock. We lost it to Turlock. Where are they coming from,
Blue
Casey?
Diamond, but we did lose, in my opinion, we lost Blue Diamond to Turlock, and we also lost a milk processing plant potentially. But the Mayor, the sale price of this building, is there a little deduct for some of the copper that's missing over there?
$500,000.
$500,000 in copper is missing, so we had to reduce the price by $500,000 to these owners,
Correct.
or buyers.
Yes.
Well, that's very unfortunate, Mayor. Is there a reason that happened?
I guess they wiped it out a couple of years ago.
That's the problem with these cities. That's the problem I have with the city when we have buildings that are standing there vacant, is they don't patrol the area a little more frequently, and they let people rape them. The one building that stands alone that's just awesome is the old Travis Credit Union building that Mr. Narazadeh owns. He keeps that thing up. If there's any kind of anything that goes wrong with that building, God, I'm drawing a brain fart this morning. If he has any kind of graffiti, he goes out there and cleans it up the next day. That building has been empty for years, and you would never know it.
So
hopefully nothing else will happen to the Pepsi building before it gets sold. But Mayor, more importantly, what are we going to do with the $1 million or so we get from that, or what should we do with it?
My suggestion is that we invest it and build BOD ponds, maybe more than just one, which has been huge environmental challenges.
What's a BOD pond?
It's a biological oxygen demand, which means that the discharge of a dairy processing plant has particles in it which eat up oxygen, and it impacts the wastewater treatment plant, so you have to pre-treat it.
Is that why
dairy processing, isn't that similar to what Hillmar Cheese is building a powdered milk plant in Stanislaus County to the tune of $150 million? If we had that kind of treatment, couldn't we have maybe been in the running for that plant?
No.
Yes.
No, I talked to the guy at Hill Marchese. Said they were going to Turlock all the time because they had the building for it. Everything was in. If they went to Merced, they would have to have spent a ton of money doing a lot of upgrades and things. If they went to Turlock,
because we don't have the infrastructure. This is what the mayor's talking about, Robert. Listen to him.
No, don't wait a minute. Don't chastise me because we disagree. I'm telling you, I talked to the guy at Hill Marchese when I was there, and the guy said
Who's the guy?
There was a gentleman
some guy that makes sandwiches behind.
Well, you're some guy. You're some guy that does what, Case? You're hellbent. I talked to the guy. I told you about it.
Who's the guy? The CEO?
No, the gentleman who's in charge of the visitor center. Okay, he's in charge of the visitor center. I was there looking for the contact person for the Italo for Dairyman's night, and we were talking about that.
So this guy runs the visitor center?
He runs the visitor center and what he said.
He's instrumental in making a $150 million decision for the company?
First of all, it went from 100 to 150. When you talk to Casey again, it'll be 200 million.
Well, my point is
what he said was, I said, where did that go? He said it was a almond plant that was already hooked up. We just moved right into it. It was already ready, up and running. If you go to Merced, you got to go per permits, you got to go planning, you got to do a whole 9 yards. This was already there, so we just moved across the town. That's all he said.
Was that your understanding, Mayor?
Yes.
There you go.
That was there, but they also have the BOD infrastructure. The city has, which we don't.
So by building these BOD ponds, it would be kind of forward thinking to have it available in case another opportunity came up.
There's a dairy processing project right now that wants to come to Merced that would employ about 90 people. But they need pretreatment, and for a company to do that, it's really expensive, of course.
So you're going to be good to invest this money in that so that we could attract that kind of business.
I think that's worthy of a huge discussion.
Yep. Say sorry, Case. You were wrong.
Okay, well, it's nice to know that we still have other opportunities in the pipeline that way, because we've heard that we have a lot of sewage capacity at our new plant. Isn't that true?
That's very true, but we still have to pre-treat this stuff.
Right, and Merced, if I'm not mistaken, the number one agricultural product we produce is dairy.
Milk.
Dairy, cheese, nuts.
Yeah.
So I think it would be behoove us to maybe look at that. Is there any direction on that, or where's the money slated to go, or we really don't know yet?
Don't know yet.
Okay.
This is just my idea.
Okay, well, it's a good idea. Let's talk about something that's been a perennial issue for the last few months, the Youth Council. What is going on with the Youth Council? I've never seen a harder group to try to spend $25,000. Why don't we just buy some bats and balls or give it to Tony Slayton? I mean, what's your opinion?
I think the first thing we need to do is clarify what this $25,000 actually is. And Mayor, maybe you can help us with this. Is this actually $25,000 sitting in a pot, ready to be written a check on to go to the youth in this community? What is that $25,000 we keep hearing about?
It's to pay for the organization of the Youth Council.
Okay, so it's just to get the premise of what the Youth Council is going to consist of?
So far, they've only spent it on pizzas.
Okay, well, we've had a heck of a time trying to get just the organization done. I mean, no offense to Mr. Conway over there at Parks and Recs, but what is going on, Mayor? We've had some city councilmen being involved in this. What's going on?
Well, the last thing you said was part of the problem. There's too much direction being given by other parties. I have attempted to correct that. I went to the last meeting. Mike Conway did what he's supposed to have always done, and that's to offer logistic support to the council. The council member who was sitting there supposedly representing the high school, because I was there, was not able to interfere. So it's now going a lot smoother.
So is there some light at the end of the tunnel with this youth council? We may see one someday?
Yes, in fact, the council, the youth themselves, are now having what's called an assembly. They're going to pass out questionnaires on campus and at a meeting at City Hall to ask the youth questions about what they'd like to see in Merced, what they think the future is, questions like that, so that the council has information from the youth themselves.
So the idea is to let the youth decide this and not let the adults interfere, right?
I told him at that meeting there's only two rules. You're running this council yourselves. They're your decisions. and you report directly to the city council. No buffers. Those are the only two rules.
And where do the expenses come in from this 25 grand, like printing the questionnaires and things like that?
No, they're actually doing fundraisers. That it's being held, according to Mr. Bramble, in case we need to hire a consultant.
Well, we don't need a consultant. I think the kids can be able to tell us what they want to see for youth services in town, don't you?
I do, and I think that pot of money could be used for several years to defray some of the things that they would like to do.
Hey, Barbara Walters, don't you think that there are some people on the horizon, like Tony Slayton's a good one, Sam Rangel, that would do the consulting for nothing?
Well, I agree. I think Tony Slayton knows what the youth needs. I think Sam Rangel with Mojo, I think we have some great programs that we can augment. And I don't understand why this is so hard. I mean, it's just so frustrating to
Control.
watch this.
Yeah, he's right.
It's control. It's who's going to control it. Is it going to be the city? Is it going to be John Bramble? Is it going to fall under Parks and Recs? Is it going to fall? So what you got is you got a power struggle and nothing gets done. It's to a grinding halt.
Over who controls that $25,000?
No, as over who controls the council, the youth council.
Some people believe the kids need to be told what to do. And
What's your feeling, Mayor?
That's what was messing it all up. These are smart young people. They're motivated. They don't need a whole lot of, quote, mentoring.
They know what they want.
There are things they can't do, of course. They can't go off on their own without a kind of a chaperone thing. So, there's some certain structure, but
no strip clubs.
But this $25,000 is earmarked for the formation of this youth council, so it can't be spent on like bats and balls and things like that, correct?
Not unless we change the direction. But that's not their purpose. They're not supposed to develop a baseball team.
Right. But my point is a lot of us, I think, thought there was a $25,000 pot there sitting there for benefits of the youth. And if we could, buy some instruments for after-school programs or something like that.
That's not what it's for.
Right.
It's strictly allocated for youth council project.
Now, I went to
$25,000 will buy a lot of pizzas, I'll tell you that. And hopefully they can have enough meetings to figure this out. Mayor, one of the things you talk about, and you made a comment, and I repeated it often, you said in 60 months, and this was a few months ago, the city of Merced is going to be out of money with the pension contributions, with the hard costs that we have. And you've talked about getting a citizens-based team to look at long-term sustainability. Where are we on that, or what do we need to do?
That was discussed at our priority goal-setting session. I think it'll come back for council discussion. Mr. Bramble is in favor of doing that. But at the long-term 5-year revenue cost projection, they both go up. Hopefully we can garner 4 or 5% sales tax increases, but the costs also go up 3.5%. So that generates a difference of maybe $700,000 or $800,000 additional money. Most of which would be general fund money. The problem is that assumes 1.5% raises for employees, no new employees, no money put in road repairs, no money put in the fund to replace police and fire vehicles, no money in the fund to replace computers. So
this is where you say we're going to be running out of money, correct?
Well, if we have to do some of those things, the money won't be there. So when people say this is a sustainable budget, I disagree. It's just a survival budget, and that's what we've been operating on for 5 or 6 years.
Well, when I saw the budget presentation, they had revenues and expenses, and they were just about neck and neck. There's not a lot of room there, a lot of padding. What's the answer? Do we look at privatization? What do we look at?
That's what the Citizens Committee is supposed to do, is to evaluate all the services the city provides and determine, is there a better cost-effective way of doing it.
But will that be a moot point if SB 7 comes into practice?
It won't be moot, but the local projects will either cost too much and can't be done, or those that we have to do will cost a lot more, which will drain more money from the general fund. So it'll have an inverse impact on what we're trying to do, and that's put more money in the general fund.
We borrow from the general fund quite a bit, haven't we?
Not much. The cyclical input that we're paid by the state, our sales tax and whatever, only gets paid quarterly. So to pay our bills, sometimes we have to just borrow briefly from the general fund, which
until the check from the state gets here.
Yeah, and we're just talking a few weeks or something. It's not a long-term thing, but
Case, we got to take our second break, buddy.
All right. Well, I told you this is going to be a fast-paced hour, folks. Stay tuned for our third and final segment.
Go.
Hey, folks, welcome back to our third and final segment of this special Wednesday edition of Citizen Watch on KYOS 1480 AM.
I thought this was the Kingsley Report.
I'm Steve Colvard, Robert the Velvet Sledgehammer Tomasetti. Maybe he'll ask a question one of these days. And I'm Casey Steed. We have with us in studio Mayor Stan Thurston on his third-year term. We've got 3 years to get it right, Stan, so hopefully you can give us some guidance where we need to go. We saw here in the news recently this week where we've doubled our homeless count from last year. Now, I've given some kudos to Norm Andrade and the council for cleaning up Merced. It looks a little bit better the last few weeks. But why do we have double the homeless, and what's the 10-year plan to alleviate it?
I think the current count, in many cases, counted people twice.
Well, I noticed that they had some of the homeless doing the counting. Do they know how to count?
I don't know. Depends on whether they're sober or not.
Ooh, scandal!
I can tell you, I drove to work this morning down 16th, and it's starting to leak again because there was all kinds of them walking up and down 16th with their dogs and their carts, and has our community become some kind of beacon for homeless?
I don't think we're that unique.
No?
This goes on elsewhere.
Your answer, I guess, is yes.
Even Atwater has homeless now.
Well, I saw homeless in the paper. Atlas had a homeless count of 2.
Atwater?
Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't there. So I'm starting to ask the question. Now, this 10-year continuum of care seems to focus on getting a place for these people to live. And I'm asking, and I know the Sunstar did a pretty good job of percentiling. 27% are drug addicted, and so many percent of this and that, whatever. 7%, I think, were veterans. Done a good job with veterans. They've received vouchers, and they're actually living in apartments now.
Yeah, Tony Thompson's house.
So my question is, why aren't we identifying more specifically why they're homeless and treating them for that? We're never going to solve the problem by building buildings to put them in, most of whom won't want to go in them anyway.
What about a campsite, Mayor? We've heard that, hey, just give us a place to camp and everything will be okay.
I agree with the day center. The overnight stuff is a little distressing to me because that's like building an apartment. Let's talk about those that have addiction and alcohol and drugs, and there's some percentage that have lost their job and they've fallen into this who, if given a chance and some help, would get out of it and get a job. I think those ought to be identified and specifically tasked to do that. Certainly veterans, I would say almost all veterans who had a chance to live somewhere probably would.
I have a question.
What?
Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Case? No, this is to everybody. My understanding is that Social Security provides benefits for those who are addicted, on some kind of prescription drugs, I don't think alcoholism's covered, but I think that I knew a couple of people who were heroin addicts and they were on Social Security. How come these people aren't qualifying for help for Social Security?
I think they are. There's a gentleman that sits in a wheelchair at 16th and 59 with one leg who receives $855 a month SSI, but he sits out there and collects money and lives in the homeless, what used to be the homeless camp near 16th.
UP Estates.
Yep.
That's where, what's her face?
Monica Villa.
But that's where she
Casey's
was.
girlfriend.
Yeah.
So here's this gentleman, and he has an amputated leg because he shot it up so much it turned gangrenous and they had to amputate it. So what does he do with all this money? He's getting SSI, he's getting his collections, he has virtually no overhead except for a couple dogs. Well, he's doing drugs.
But see, my idea or my thought was, okay, look, we go over here and we get an apartment complex for these people. Gives them a place to go. Because some of them have said, because I don't have an address, a physical address, there's no way I could collect any kind of benefits.
That's what a day center would do. It would provide them with that. It
would provide them with that, or even an apartment, okay? And you say, okay, look, you're getting $850. We want $300 for rent, and kind of set them up. I mean, to where they're productive people in society.
Yeah, but what do you do if they don't want that help? I think that's the ones that we have issues with. The ones that, like Monica, she feels like it's her right to pitch a tent wherever she wants to pitch a tent and live. I mean,
send her to Yosemite.
To her, that's what she wants. I don't think she wants to live in an apartment. I think people embrace that lifestyle. Some of them do. And when we try to give them that hand up instead of the hand out, they reject it because they don't want to give up their addictions. They don't want to give up their pets.
Well, the main thing is they don't want to follow the rule.
Absolutely.
And see, that always bugged me because when she talks, she says, I don't want, I want to live out here. We want a place where we don't have to be kicked out after 7 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, what do you want to do? Stay home and watch cartoons all day? I mean, go out and go do something.
I feel this real very comfortable that if there's someone in this community that's homeless that wants help, that we are here to help them. And we can shepherd them through the system. But we have a large percentage of these homeless people that don't want help. They're happy with the lifestyle. They want to continue to live the way they're living. And what do we do with those individuals? Mayor.
I was out at that encampment, and a female emerged from a tent and was complaining there was no showers there. But, gee whiz.
Well, some of them have mental illnesses. I mean, there's a whole potpourri of issues while they're on the street. But the bottom line
we need to deal with those and not be. We're essentially becoming enablers.
And that's the wrong approach, don't you agree, Mayor?
Yes, but
But that's what Bruce Metcalf wants.
Only to Here's the deal with Bruce's. The day center would have services available. They would have mental health, physical health. They would have things that they need that would be there and available. That's the difference between.
And do we not currently have that? Is that not currently available?
But they're scattered all over town.
How do you centralize it?
Well, at least to some extent. So those people who want help, there would be a centralized place to go get it.
Why don't we just take the property across from the Rayleighs? We can send all the homeless people up there.
Right. And I keep hearing, when I read that article, they said that this has something to do with HUD funding. Does the city get money from HUD, Health and Human Housing and Urban Development, for the amount of homeless population we have in our city?
No, it's for affordable housing. It's not for homeless housing.
Okay. But does it affect the amount of money we get from the federal government and the number of homeless people we have in our community?
Well, we might get more for some reason, for CDBG money or something, but what do you do with it?
Exactly. I mean, it doesn't trickle down to the actual homeless individual?
The organization that's going to get sort of clobbered on this count is MCAG, because integrated in the road planning process is housing for some ungodly reason. So that's going to be an issue that MCAG oversees the Continuum of Care grant. And that grant's just basically enough to cover the cost of administrating it. Administrating what? I'm not sure.
See, there you go with people who want more government money so they can build their administrations, they can feather their own nest. Excuse me. People say, well, no, that's not true. But you think about it, and, Stan just said it. Here's people that getting money that's just going to be able to pay for the administration. What exactly are they administering? I don't think they really care. I think as long as they get that money so they can put Juanita or Mary or any Pete, Bob, whatever on the system, they can. You think I'm kidding? Seriously, go over there.
Well, I think what the mayor's saying is that the direction we need to take is a day camp. Overnight camping is not going to be acceptable because we're just going to create a bigger problem. And so maybe I know there's some business leaders, Mr. Abate, Mr. Lorenzi, that have stood up with Bruce Metcalf in a meeting and talked about looking at this. And I guess that's the direction we're headed as a day camp, Mayor?
Well, at least. We've had no discussion as far as the city council related to those kind of campgrounds, if you will. I think we need to talk more about it. And I applaud their efforts for doing something. In fact, as you said, I applaud our police department for kind of cleaning up Main Street in particular. But it's a constant battle. If you do it once, a month later, it'll look like it did a month before. So it's, but
I live that here at the radio station. You know, the back 40 there over by Walgreens, it's clean for a month, and then now they're coming back. I mean,
but look at Bob Hurt Square. I don't know what the city's doing with Bob Hurt Square, but that place has been clean ever since they did that. I mean, we get a couple of people that sit there during the day, but nobody sleeps overnight.
We're moving people along. we're nudging people along.
I know we have some militant. I call him Che Guevara, that sits up there at the council meeting and chastises about videotaping and this sort of thing and violation of rights. But we're not violating people's rights. We're enforcing the laws. I don't think anybody's rights are being violated.
No. I did want to say one thing before the time gets away from us. We talk about issues and problems and so forth and so on, and it gets to be kind of a negative drag. And I don't want to leave without saying that tens of thousands of us love living in Merced. We think this is a wonderful town. The people here are gracious, kind, courteous for the most part. They want to help whenever they can. It's a great place to live. And I always use the example of how often do you hear the honking of a car horn in Merced? It's very, very rare. Even when somebody sits at a green light and doesn't move. Now, in Southern California, people would be pulling out sawed-off shotguns if you did that, but in addition to the horn.
Or planada.
I think that's evidence of our patience and courtesy and just a whole bunch of nice people living in a wonderful town.
Well, you know, the mayor makes a good point. We do have a tendency to focus on the negative and maybe not give accolades to the positive. But there are a lot of good things going on in Merced.
Why don't you give accolades to Stan?
Better and better.
Why don't you give accolades for Stan? I had some guy in my office, Mr. Aceves, come walking in saying, "Hi, Stan Thurston sent me up here so that I can take a poll of what do you think about," I forgot what the subject was. I think it was like ROP students and things like that. And it was a real nice guy. Came over. Did you do that, Stan?
Yes.
That was a real nice guy. And spoken like a true attorney. Yes, Your Honor.
Well,
but anyways, the guy came up and I told him
we need to keep our focus on downtown. We can't forget about downtown. The folks down there are paying double taxation. Any thoughts on the downtown business community, Stan, and this double tax they're paying and what should be done?
I think soon there'll be a new downtown association which will have significant, if not absolute, input on how that money's spent. I think the downtown steering committee will go away.
Are you on that committee, Robert?
Absolutely not. Nobody asked me for anything. Are you kidding? They don't want my input.
I'll send somebody else to you then.
Well, this guy, he came to me. No, my attitude is, I have an office downtown. Why don't we outsource it? I'd be happy to take care of it for a pittance of what they pay these people. I'm serious. Karen Baker does a great job, but she's in charge of this position, which is the visitor center. And then you will give her the downtown on top of it. She didn't get any pay raise. So she's got another pie on her table, plate on her table that she has to deal with, and she really doesn't have a feel for downtown. Yeah. She really doesn't have an in with the people who have businesses. I go down there and they tell me all the problems of what's going on downtown.
Well, we're running short on time here, and I'd just like to ask the mayor one more question before he gets out of here. Do you feel, Mayor, comfortable that the city is running efficiently? I mean, are we getting a good bang for our buck as a taxpayer at the city of Merced?
It could be a lot better.
Yeah. Ooh.
We have a Rolls-Royce city service. Can we continue to do that? That's the question.
Yeah. Well, I think the mayor, again, we're out of, how much time we got left?
We got 1 minute. 1 minute.
Well, I'd just like to thank Stan for coming in. I know that we have somebody from the city council coming in every week. I'd like to get some divergent opinions. I don't know if the mayor's schedule or even the other council member's schedule allows that, but I think that we need to have more than just one viewpoint from one councilman in there, and I'd like to invite the mayor to come back again and give us those viewpoints, give us those divergent opinions, and I'd like to thank him for coming in on this edition of Citizen Watch, this special Wednesday edition of Citizen Watch. If he has anything else he wants to say, do you have anything in parting you want to say, Mayor?
Yes. What I said today is my opinion. What that councilman says is his opinion. They're not the opinions of the council.
Well, I think we need to have different opinions. It's good to have all opinions voiced.
I invite all of them.
Yeah, right. And the more opinions.
Well, we'll talk to Steve and management about that, and Robert, I know you didn't get a lot of airtime in there today, but your questions were great.
Yeah,
we
thank
say
you.
Every time we leave.
Goodbye.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Mayor Thurston. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow night, 9 o'clock.
That's right. Another edition of Citizen Watch on Thursday, folks. Tune in.
Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.